Ladies and gentlemen, life is suffering. This is not a pessimistic statement. It is an observation of reality. You will face hardship, pain, and struggle, and at times, these forces will seem insurmountable. Some people respond by attempting to shoulder the weight of existence entirely on their own, believing that sheer willpower or personal intellect is sufficient to conquer whatever they encounter. But what happens when the weight is too much? When the enemy before you is greater than your capacity to resist? There is an undeniable arrogance in believing that you can master everything alone. The world is not structured to be conquered by the individual in isolation. Even the most competent, the most intelligent, and the most disciplined eventually encounter forces beyond their control, and when this happens, despair takes hold. Anxiety becomes the dominant force. A person who sees themselves as the lone warrior against an overwhelming enemy will either break under the pressure or become consumed by bitterness and resentment. But what if there was another way? What if the battle you are fighting is not meant to be fought alone? Consider for a moment the idea that you are not the sole architect of victory. Throughout history, cultures and civilizations have understood that true strength does not come from raw human effort alone. There is a higher structure, one that sees beyond your immediate struggle, one that knows the battlefield better than you ever could. When you allow yourself to acknowledge this, when you surrender your illusion of control, you begin to see life from a different perspective. To surrender is not to be weak. It is, in fact, the height of wisdom. Surrendering your battles to God is not an act of giving up. It is an act of prioritization. You focus on what you can control, your thoughts, your actions, your character, and you leave the ultimate outcome in the hands of something greater than yourself. This does not mean passivity. Faith is not about sitting idly by while the world moves around you. It is about aligning yourself with moral truth, with divine order. When you do this, you find that your struggles become more bearable, not because they vanish, but because they are no longer yours to carry alone. You step forward with courage, knowing that there is wisdom beyond your own guiding you. The real battle is not just external, it is internal. Will you live in fear, believing yourself to be the master of everything, only to collapse under the weight? Or will you acknowledge that your strength is multiplied when you align yourself with divine wisdom? Let go of the burden that was never yours alone to carry. Stand firm in faith. The battles you face are not just yours. They are part of something far greater, and when you let God fight for you, victory is not just possible, it is inevitable. Life is suffering. It's not a pessimistic or fatalistic view, but a recognition of an undeniable truth that we often try to avoid. If you look at the human experience, you'll quickly find that suffering is a constant companion. No one can escape it, regardless of wealth, power, intelligence, or social status. Suffering comes in many forms: emotional, physical, psychological, and existential. It touches every life, and it can often seem to come without warning or reason. The struggle, the hardships, and the challenges we face are not just random, they are inherent parts of the human experience. From the moment we are born, we enter a world full of pain, adversity, and challenge. As children, we start life full of wonder and innocence, but we're also vulnerable. We face the discomfort of growing up, of developing physically and emotionally, of learning how to live with others in society. The pain of the world begins to affect us through relationships, societal pressures, the expectations placed upon us, the very uncertainties of life itself. These early experiences shape us, forming our understanding of the world and our place within it. As we grow older, the struggles evolve. We may experience the loss of loved ones, the pain of failure, the isolation of feeling misunderstood, or the crushing weight of failure when our efforts don't yield the results we had hoped for. These struggles are not to be ignored or pushed aside. They are a crucial part of the human condition. The idea that life is filled with struggle is not to say that human existence is only about hardship, but it is essential to acknowledge that the moments of happiness and fulfillment that we do experience are often shaped and defined by the struggles we endure. Without struggle, there would be no true growth, no real achievement, and no sense of meaning. If we never faced hardship, there would be no opportunity to learn resilience, strength, or perseverance. Struggle is not just inevitable, it is essential. The problem comes when we misunderstand the nature of struggle. Society often tells us that struggle is something to be avoided at all costs, that if we encounter difficulty, we've failed in some way. But in truth, struggle is not an indicator of failure, but a sign of life and growth. It is a natural and necessary component of our journey. In this light, suffering serves as a teacher. It challenges us to confront our weaknesses, limitations, and fears. It forces us to re-examine our values and priorities, to reframe our perspectives on what is important. It tests our resilience and perseverance. The moment we acknowledge that suffering is a part of life, we open ourselves up to the possibility of growth. We begin to understand that struggle is not something to fear, but something to be faced with courage and wisdom. However, this acceptance of suffering should not lead to a passive acceptance of life's hardships. There's a tendency in some philosophical or religious teachings to resign oneself to suffering in a way that breeds stagnation. But that's not the message we need to embrace. Life's struggles aren't here just to weigh us down, but to propel us toward transformation and development. It is not enough to accept suffering, we must engage with it actively. The true challenge lies in how we approach the pain, how we navigate through the difficulties that life throws at us. What we must come to realize is that no one can face these battles alone. While we are all individuals with our own paths to walk, the reality is that there is a limit to what one person can bear. The more we try to shoulder everything on our own, the more we risk becoming overwhelmed by it all. Life's struggles can easily break a person who insists on carrying all of it by themselves. That's why it's essential to understand that we don't have to struggle alone. Human beings were never meant to face their battles in isolation. It's an illusion to think that we can simply do it all by our own strength, or to think that we can conquer all obstacles by sheer determination. When we acknowledge that struggle is universal and that no one is exempt from it, we become more open to finding the support we need. This is where the concept of faith and higher strength enters the conversation. It's often said that faith is a refuge from suffering, and for good reason. It doesn't mean that struggles disappear, but that in the face of adversity there is strength in surrendering to a higher order. Struggling alone is exhausting and can break the spirit, but inviting divine wisdom into your life offers a perspective that lifts the burden. Life's suffering is not a curse. It is a transformative process that can propel us forward if we approach it with the right mindset. Struggle is not just the absence of happiness, but the precursor to it. Through hardship, we can discover deeper meaning and higher purpose. But we must first confront it openly, acknowledging it not as an enemy, but as a challenge that can lead us to greater wisdom. The key to navigating life's inevitable suffering is not in avoiding it, but in facing it with the understanding that, in the end, this struggle is what will shape us into the people we are meant to become. And it is in recognizing that struggle as a part of life, and not as something to be avoided at all costs, that we find the true courage to move forward, knowing that with each battle fought, we become more than we were before. There are moments in life when the weight of the world seems too much to bear, when the problems we face feel insurmountable. Whether it's the loss of a loved one, the strain of financial difficulty, or the emotional toll of unfulfilled dreams, we often encounter situations where our individual strength simply isn't enough. These are the moments when the limits of human strength become painfully clear. It is in these moments that we must face the truth. There are battles that we cannot win on our own. While we might have the physical, mental, and emotional capacity to tackle many challenges, there are certain struggles that are beyond our reach. This doesn't mean we are weak or incapable. Rather, it's a recognition that our human limitations are real and they must be acknowledged in order to live wisely. Our individual strength is finite. We are not invincible. Human beings are at their core vulnerable. We are creatures of both strength and fragility, capable of great achievements, but also susceptible to exhaustion, doubt, and despair. The idea that we can do everything on our own is in many ways an illusion. It's easy to fall into the trap of believing that with enough effort, perseverance, or skill, we can overcome anything. However, this perspective ignores the reality that some circumstances are simply too much to handle by oneself. At some point, everyone encounters a struggle that their strength alone cannot overcome. There is a deep cultural expectation that we must always be strong, that we should never show vulnerability or admit weakness. From a young age, we are taught to be self-reliant, to believe that success is achieved through personal effort and determination alone. While these values can be empowering, they can also create a dangerous illusion of invulnerability. We are often encouraged to push through pain and difficulty without acknowledging that sometimes pushing through is not enough. This mindset can lead to burnout, anxiety, and even despair when we inevitably encounter obstacles that are too great for us to handle on our own. The limits of human strength are most evident when we face loss. When we lose someone we love, we often feel as though the world has stopped spinning. Grief is a powerful force, one that cannot be outrun or avoided. We might try to push through it, telling ourselves that we'll be fine, that time will heal all wounds. But there are moments when the weight of sorrow is too heavy to carry by ourselves. The pain can feel endless, and no amount of willpower can change that. In these moments, we must confront the truth that human strength has its boundaries. The emotional and psychological toll of loss can leave us feeling empty, as though we are unable to carry on. This is when we must understand that it is okay to admit that we need help, that we cannot carry the burden alone. Acknowledging our limitations does not make us weak, it makes us human. This truth extends to other areas of life as well. Consider a person who is facing financial struggles. Despite their best efforts, they may not be able to make ends meet. They may work tirelessly, try to save, and sacrifice their personal time, but despite all their efforts, they find themselves stuck in a seemingly unresolvable situation. The realization that no matter how hard they try, they cannot solve the problem on their own can be deeply disheartening. It's a moment of vulnerability that many would rather avoid. Yet, it's in these moments that the recognition of human limitations becomes crucial. A person who is struggling financially might need the support of others, be it through community, family, or even the help of social programs. Recognizing that you cannot do everything alone and that it's okay to ask for help is an essential step in facing life's challenges. The limits of human strength are not just physical, they are also emotional and mental. Our minds, for all their brilliance, can become overwhelmed by stress, anxiety, and trauma. The constant pressure to succeed, to perform, and to meet expectations can lead to mental exhaustion. We live in a world where the demands on our time and attention are relentless, and this pressure can eventually erode our mental well-being. Even the strongest minds can break under the weight of constant strain. It's at these moments that we must recognize that our minds are not invincible. They too have their limits. Just as we need to care for our bodies through rest and nourishment, we must also care for our mental health. Acknowledging that we cannot always handle everything on our own is the first step towards seeking the help we need. Therapy, counseling, or simply opening up to friends and family can provide the support necessary to heal and regain strength. In recognizing the limits of human strength, we also open ourselves up to the possibility of growth. By admitting that we cannot do everything alone, we invite the opportunity to develop humility, resilience, and wisdom. Understanding our limitations does not make us lesser. Rather, it makes us more capable of navigating life's challenges with greater insight and understanding. It allows us to seek out the resources and support we need to grow in empathy for others who are struggling and to approach life's battles with a sense of humility and grace. There is strength in recognizing our limitations. It is not a sign of weakness, but of wisdom. By acknowledging that we cannot face every battle alone, we open ourselves to the possibility of greater strength and resilience. It is through this recognition that we can find the courage to face life's challenges, not in isolation, but with the support and guidance that we need. The true strength lies not in denying our limitations, but in embracing them and seeking the support necessary to overcome life's greatest struggles. In the midst of life's inevitable battles, it is easy to focus solely on human strength, the physical, mental, and emotional reserves that we try to tap into when we are faced with adversity. We often rely on our own efforts, our intellect, and our willpower to navigate difficulties. However, there comes a point when our resources run dry, when our personal strength is no longer enough to carry us through the storm. It is at this critical juncture that we can discover the profound power of faith, a force that transcends the limitations of human strength and provides a deeper source of resilience, guidance, and hope. Faith, in its truest sense, is not merely blind belief or wishful thinking. It is the trust in something greater than ourselves, a belief that there is a divine order, purpose, or wisdom that exists beyond our individual understanding. This faith is not based on circumstances or outcomes, but on the belief that there is a higher structure, whether you call it God, the universe, or a higher power, that is guiding and protecting us even when we cannot see the full picture. It is the recognition that we are not alone in our struggles and that there is a force far greater than our own limited strength at work in our lives. At its core, faith provides a sense of meaning and purpose that allows us to endure even the harshest of circumstances. When we place our trust in a higher power, we open ourselves to the understanding that our lives are part of a greater plan, one that may not always align with our own desires or expectations, but one that ultimately leads us toward growth, transformation, and healing. Faith allows us to navigate life's challenges with a sense of peace and clarity, knowing that we are not alone and that we do not have to carry the burden of our struggles on our own. This trust in something greater than ourselves does not mean that we passively wait for things to improve, nor does it imply that we abandon our personal responsibility. Rather, faith enables us to move forward with a sense of inner strength, not because we have all the answers, but because we trust that we are being guided toward what we need. In times of difficulty, faith gives us the courage to take the next step, even when we cannot see the entire path ahead. It empowers us to face the unknown with confidence, knowing that the divine wisdom we place our trust in will not lead us astray. One of the most transformative aspects of faith is the sense of surrender that comes with it. Surrender does not mean giving up or relinquishing responsibility for our actions. Rather, it is an acknowledgement that there are forces beyond our control and that we do not need to bear the weight of the world on our shoulders. Surrendering to faith means recognizing that we do not have to fight every battle alone, that there is a higher power at work in our lives, and that we can trust in the wisdom of that higher power to guide us. This surrender frees us from the pressure of trying to control every outcome and allows us to focus on what is within our ability to influence: our thoughts, actions, and responses to the circumstances we face. It is often said that faith is not a crutch, but a source of strength. In fact, it can be one of the most powerful tools we have for navigating life's struggles. When we lean on our faith, we are not simply relying on ourselves or our own abilities. We are tapping into a source of strength that is far greater than anything we could generate on our own. This faith becomes a wellspring of resilience, giving us the endurance to keep going even when the path seems too difficult to traverse. It provides us with a sense of perspective, allowing us to see our struggles not as insurmountable obstacles, but as opportunities for growth and transformation. When we trust in a higher order, we shift our focus from the immediate difficulties to the larger picture. We begin to see our challenges not as random events, but as integral parts of our journey. Faith helps us to understand that our struggles, while painful, have a purpose. They are shaping us, teaching us, and preparing us for something greater. Through this lens, even the most difficult experiences can be seen as part of a divine plan, one that we may not fully understand in the moment, but one that ultimately serves our highest good. This perspective helps us to maintain hope even when the way forward is unclear. In this sense, faith is not merely a passive belief in a higher power. It is an active force that shapes how we approach life. It is a discipline that requires us to continually trust, even when we do not have all the answers. It is a trust that is built through experience, through encountering hardship and finding that we are still able to stand even when everything seems to be falling apart. Each moment of faith, each step forward, no matter how small, builds our inner strength and resilience, reinforcing the trust that we are being guided and supported no matter what life throws our way. The power of faith also lies in its ability to transform our understanding of ourselves. When we trust in a higher power, we acknowledge that we are not the ultimate authority in our lives. We are not solely responsible for every outcome, nor do we have to have control over every situation. This realization brings with it a deep sense of humility. It is a recognition that we are part of a larger tapestry, one that extends beyond our individual lives. This humility frees us from the need to constantly prove ourselves, allowing us to surrender to a higher wisdom and find peace in the process. Faith is the anchor that keeps us grounded when everything around us seems to be in turmoil. It provides the clarity and peace we need to move forward with confidence, knowing that there is a purpose behind our struggles and that we are not alone in facing them. Faith is not a rejection of human strength. It is the realization that our strength is incomplete without the support of something greater. By placing our trust in this higher power, we unlock a deeper resilience, one that enables us to face life's challenges with grace, courage, and the assurance that we are being guided toward our ultimate good. The concept of surrender is often misunderstood in modern culture. It is frequently seen as a sign of weakness, as if to surrender means to give up, to quit, or to let go of one's responsibility. Yet surrender, in its truest form, is not about passivity or resignation. It is about releasing the illusion of control and recognizing that there are forces beyond our understanding and capacity. In the face of overwhelming challenges, surrendering is not an act of defeat. It is, in fact, a powerful decision to align oneself with a greater purpose, a divine wisdom, or a higher order. It is a conscious choice to trust in something beyond our immediate circumstances and to let go of the need to force outcomes. When we surrender, we are not abandoning our responsibilities. Instead, we are choosing to relinquish the need to control every aspect of the situation. This type of surrender is an active and profound decision to accept what is, to trust in the process, and to have faith that there is a greater plan unfolding, even when it seems unclear or even painful in the moment. When we struggle against the tide of life, trying to force outcomes according to our own will and desires, we often find ourselves in a state of resistance, fighting against circumstances we cannot change, exhausting ourselves in the process. We spend our energy pushing against what is happening rather than accepting and navigating it with wisdom and grace. This resistance can create a sense of inner turmoil, as if we are constantly battling forces that we cannot control. It's as though we are caught in an endless cycle of effort and frustration, trying to bend the world to our will, only to find that the more we fight, the more the struggle intensifies. This is where surrender comes into play. It is the ability to step back from the battle, to let go of the need to control every outcome, and to trust that the universe or a higher power is guiding us in ways we may not yet understand. Surrendering is not about withdrawing from life or becoming passive in the face of difficulty. It is about recognizing when we have done all that we can and allowing divine wisdom to take over. It is about accepting that some battles are beyond our ability to win on our own, and that by letting go, we open ourselves to the possibility of true transformation. This is a difficult lesson to learn as it goes against much of what we are taught in modern society. We are conditioned to believe that success is the result of personal effort and control, that we must be the masters of our fate and the architects of our destiny. While personal effort is undoubtedly important, there are many moments in life when our efforts alone are insufficient. These are the times when surrender becomes a powerful tool. By letting go of the need to control, we allow ourselves to flow with life rather than against it. We allow ourselves to be guided by something greater than our own limited